The kitchen is a now abandoned farmhouse of John Wright, a gloomy kitchen, and left without having been put in order, unwashed pans under the sink, a loaf of bread outside the bread box, a dish towel on the table, all the signs of incompleted work. At the rear the outer door opens, and the sheriff comes in, followed by the county attorney and Hale. The sheriff and Hale are men in middle life. The county attorney is a young man. All are much bundled up, and go at once to the stove. They are followed by the two women, the sheriff's wife first. She is a slight, wiry woman, a thin, nervous face. Mrs. Hale is larger, and would ordinarily be called more comfortable looking, but she is disturbed now, and looks fearfully about as she enters. The women have come in slowly, and stand close together near the door.
This feels good. Come up to the fire, ladies.
Oh, I'm not cold. No, Mr. Hale, before we move things about, you explained to Mr. Henderson just what you saw when you came here yesterday morning.
By the way, has anything been moved, or things just as you left them yesterday?
It's just the same, with it dropped below zero last night. I thought I'd better send Frank out this morning to make a fire for us. No use getting pneumonia with a big case on, but I told him not to touch anything except the stove. And you know Frank?
Somebody should have been left here yesterday.
Oh, yesterday, when I had to send Frank to Morris Center for that man who went crazy, I want you to know that I had my hand full yesterday. I know you could get back from Omaha by today, and as long as I went over everything here myself.
Well, Mr. Hale, tell just what happened when you came here yesterday morning.
Oh, Harry and I had started to town with a load of potatoes. We came along the road from my place, and as I got here, I said, I'm going to see if I can get John Wright to go in with me on a party telephone. I spoke to Wright about it once before, and he put me off, saying folks talk too much anyway. And all he asked was peace and quiet. I guess you know about how much he talked himself. But I thought maybe if I went to the house and talked about it once before his wife, though I said to Harry that I didn't know as what his wife wanted made much difference to John.
Let's talk about that later, Mr. Hale. I do want to talk about that. But tell now just what happened when you got to the house.
I didn't hear or see anything. I knocked at the door, and still it was all quiet inside. I knew they must be up. It was past 8 o'clock. So I knocked again, and I thought I heard somebody say, "Come in." I wasn't sure. I'm not sure yet. But I opened this door, and there in the rocker sat Mrs. Wright.
What was she doing?
She was rocking back and forth. She had her apron in her hand and was kind of pleating it.
And how did she look?
Well, she looked queer.
How do you mean queer?
Well, as if she didn't know what she was going to do next and was kind of done up.
How did she seem to feel about your coming?
Why, I don't think she minded one way or other. She didn't pay much attention. I said, "How do, Mrs. Wright? It's cold, ain't it?" And she said, "Is it?" And went on contemplating at her apron. Well, I was surprised. She didn't ask me to come up to the stove or to sit down, but just sat there, not even looking at me. So I said, "I want to see John." And then she laughed. I guess you would call it a laugh. I thought of Harry and the team outside, so I said a little sharp, "Can't I see John?" "No," she says, "kinda do like." "Ain't he home?" says I. "Yes," says she, "he's home." "Then why can't I see him?" I asked her out of patience. "'Cause he's dead," says she. "Dead?" says I. She just nodded her head, not getting a bit excited, but rocking back and forth. "Why, where is he?" says I, not knowing what to say. She just pointed upstairs like that. I got up with the idea of going up there. I walked from there to here. Then I says, why? What did he die of? He died of a rope round his neck, says she, and just went on pleating at her apron. Well, I went out and called Harry. I thought I might need help. We went upstairs, and there he
I
was
think
lying.
I would rather have you go into that upstairs where you can point it all out. Just go now with the rest of the story.
Well, my first thought was to get that rope off. It looked, but Harry, he went up to him and he said, no, he's dead all right, and we'd better not touch anything. So we went back downstairs. She was still sitting that same way. Has anybody been notified? I asked. No, says she unconcerned. Who did this, Mrs. Wright? Said Harry. He said it businesslike, and she stopped pleating up her apron. I don't know, she says. You don't know? Says Harry. No, says she. Weren't you sleeping in the bed with him? Says Harry. Yes, says she. But I was on the inside. Somebody slipped a rope round his neck and strangled him, and you didn't wake up, says Harry. I didn't wake up, she said after him. We must have looked as if we didn't see how that could be, for after a minute, she said, asleep sound. Harry was going to ask her more questions, but I said maybe we ought to let her tell her story first to the coroner or the sheriff. So Harry went fast as he could to the Rivers place, where there's a telephone.
And what did Mrs. Wright do when she knew that you had gone for the coroner?
She moved from that chair to this chair over here and just sat there with her hands held together and looking down. I got a feeling that I ought to make some conversation, so I said I had come in to see if John wanted to put in a telephone, and that she started to laugh. And then she stopped and looked at me, scared. I don't know, maybe it wasn't scared. I wouldn't like to say it was. Soon Harry got back, and then Dr. Lloyd came, and you, Mr. Peters, and so I guess that's all I know that you don't.
I guess we'll go upstairs first and then out to the barn and, around there. You're convinced that there was nothing important here? Nothing that would point to any motive?
Nothing here but kitchen things.
Okay.
Count the attorney, after again looking around the kitchen, opens the door of a cupboard closet. He gets up on a chair and looks on a shelf. Pull his hand away. Sticky.
Here's a nice mess.
The women draw nearer.
Oh, her fruit. It did freeze. Is she worried about that when it turned so cold? She said the fires go out and her jars will break. Well, can you beat the woman held for murder and worrying about her preserves?
Well, women are used to worrying over trifles. The two women move a little close together.
And yet, for all their worries, what would we do without the ladies?
The women do not unbend. He goes to the sink, takes a dipper full of water from the pail, and pouring it into a basin, washes his hands, starts to wipe them on the roller towel, turns it for a cleaner place,
Dirty towels.
kicks his foot against the pans under the sink.
Not much of a housekeeper, would you say, ladies?
There's a great deal of work on the farm.
To be sure, and yet, I know there are some Dixon County farmhouses which do not have such roller towels.
He gives it a pull to expose its length again.
Those towels get dirty awful quick. Also, men's hands are not as clean as they might be.
Ah, loyal to your sex, I see. But you and Mrs. White were neighbors. I suppose you were friends too?
I've not seen much of her on late years. I've not been in this house. It's been more than a year.
And why was that? You didn't like her?
I like her all well enough. Farmer's wife have their hands full, Mr. Henderson. And then
Yes.
it never seems a very cheerful place.
No, it's not cheerful. I shouldn't say she had the homemaking instinct.
Well, I don't know as right hate either.
You mean that they didn't get on very well?
No, I don't mean anything, but I don't think their place will be any cheerfuler for John Wright's being in it.
Oh, I would like to talk more of that a little later. I want to get the lay of things upstairs now.
He goes to the left, where a 3-steps lead stair door.
I suppose anything Mrs. Peter does will be all right. She was take in some clothes for her, and a few little things. We left in such a hurry yesterday.
Yes, but I would like to see what you take, Mrs. Peters, and keep an eye out for anything that might be used for us.
Yes, Mr. Henderson.
The women listen to the man's steps on the stairs, then look about the kitchen.
I'd hate to have men coming into my kitchen, snooping around and criticizing.
She arranges the pans under sink, which the lawyer had shoved out of place.
Of course, it's no more than their duty.
Duty's all right, but I guess that deputy sheriff that came out to make the fire have got a little of this on. Wish I thought of that sooner. Seems mean to talk about her for not having things slicked up when she had to come away in such a hurry.
Who has gone to a small table in the left rear corner of the room and lifted one end of a towel that covers a pan.
Oh, she had bread set.
Eyes fixed on a loaf of bread beside the bread box, which is on the low shelf at the other side of the room. Move slowly toward it.
She was going to put it in here. It's shame about her fruit. I wonder if it's all gone. Oh, I think there's some that's all right here, Mrs. Peters. Oh yes, here. This is cherries too. I declare I believe that's the only one. She'll feel awful bad after her hard work on the hot weather. I still remember the afternoon I put up my cherries on last summer.
She puts up the bottle on the big kitchen table, center of the room, with a sigh, is about to sit down in the rocking chair. Before she is seated, realizes what chair it is. With a slow look at it, steps back. The chair which she has touched rocks back and forth.
Well, I must get those things from the front closet.
She goes to the door at the right, but after looking into the other room, steps back.
Are you coming with me, Mrs. Hale? You could help me carry them.
They go in the other room. Reappear Mrs. Peters carrying a dress and skirt. Mrs. Hale following with a pair of shoes.
My, it's cold in there.
She puts the clothes on the big table and hurries to the stove.
Right was close. I think maybe that's why she kept a lot to herself. She didn't even belong to the ladies' aid. I suppose she felt she couldn't do her part, and then when you don't enjoy things, when you feel shabby. She used to wear pretty clothes and be lively when she was Minnie Foster, one of the town's girls singing in joy. But that's 30 years ago. This all you was gonna take?
Oh, well, she said she wanted an apron. Funny thing to want, for there isn't much to get you dirty in jail, goodness knows. But I suppose just to make her feel more natural. She said they was in the top drawer in this cupboard. Yeah, here it is. And then her little shawl it always hung behind the closed door. Yes, here it is.
Quickly shuts door leading upstairs, abruptly moving toward her.
Miss Peters,
Yes, Mrs. Hill?
do you think she did it?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I don't think she did it. Asking for an apron and her little shawl, also worrying about her food.
Starts to speak, glances up, where footsteps are heard in the room above, in a low voice.
Mr. Peters say it looks bad for her. You know Mr. Henderson is awful sarcastic in speech and he will make fun of her saying she didn't wake up.
Well, I guess John Wright didn't wake up when they slipping that rope under his neck.
No, it's strange. It must have been done awful crafty and still. They say it was such a funny way to kill a man, rigging it all up like that.
That's just what Mr. Hale said. There was a gun in this house. He says that's that's what he can understand.
Mr. Henderson said, coming out that was what was needed for the case was a motive. Something to show anger or sudden feeling.
Well, I don't see any sign of anger here.
She puts her hand on the dish towel which lies on the table, stands looking down at table, one half of which is clean, the other half messy.
It's whipped here.
Makes a move as if to finish work, then turns and looks at loaf of bread outside the bread box, drops towel in that voice of coming back to familiar things.
Wonder how they're finding things upstairs. I hope she had a little more tidy there. You know, it seems kind of sneaking, locking her up in the town and then coming out here and trying to make her own house turning against her.
But you know, Mrs. Hill, the law is the law.
I suppose this. Better loosen up your things, Mrs. Peters. You won't feel them when you go out.
Mrs. Peters takes off her fur tippet, goes to hang it on hook at back of room, stands looking at the under part of the small corner table.
Oh, look. She was piecing a quilt.
She brings the large sewing basket and they look at the bright pieces.
Oh, it's a log cabin pattern. Pretty, isn't it? I wonder if she was going to kill it or not it.
Footsteps have been heard coming down the stairs. The sheriff enters, followed by the Hale and the county attorney.
I wonder if she was going to kill it or just not it.
Frank's fire didn't do much up there, did it? Well, let's go to the barn and get that cleared up.
The men go outside.
I don't know, is there anything so strange or taking up our time with little things while we're waiting for them to get the evidence?
She sits down at the big table, something out of the block with decision.
I don't see it as it's anything to laugh about.
Of course, they've got awfully important things on their minds.
Pulls up a chair and joins Mrs. Hale at the table.
Mrs. Peters, look at this one. Here. This one she was working on. And look at the sewing. All the rest of it has been so nice and even. And look at this. It's all over the place. Why, it looks like as if she didn't know what she was about.
Oh, what are you doing, Mrs. Hale?
Just pulling a stage or two, that's not suit very good. Tattooing always made me fidgety.
I don't think we ought to touch things.
I'll just finish this up and Mrs. Peters,
Yes, Mr. Hale?
what do you suppose she was so nervous about?
I don't know. I don't know why she was nervous. I sometimes do awful queer when I'm just tired. Well, I must get these things wrapped up. They may be through sooner than we think. I wonder where I can find a piece of paper and string.
In that cupboard, maybe?
What? A bird cage. Did you have a bird, Mrs. Hale?
Why? I don't know whether she did or not. I've not been here for so long. There was a man around last year selling cannabis cheap, but I don't know if she took one. Maybe she did. She used to seem real pretty herself.
It was funny to think of a bird here, but she must have had one. Or why would she have a cage? I wonder what happened to it.
I suppose maybe the cat caught it.
No, she didn't have a cat. She's got that feeling some people have about cats, being afraid of them. My cat got in her room and she was real upset and asked me to take it out.
Oh, my sister Bessie was like that. Queer, ain't it?
Why, look at this door. It's broke. One hinge is pulled apart.
Looks as if someone must have been involved with it.
Why, yes.
She brings the cage forward and puts it on the table.
I wish if they're going to find any evidence they'd be about it. I don't like this place.
But I'm glad that you came with me, Miss Hale. It will be so lonesome for me sitting here alone.
It would, wouldn't it? But I'll tell you what I wish, Mrs. Pierce. I wish I had come over sometimes when she was here. I wish I had.
But of course you were awful busy, Mrs. Hale. Your house and your children?
I could have come. I stayed away because it weren't cheerful, and that's why I ought to have come. I've never liked this place. Maybe because it's down in a hollow and you don't see the wood. I don't know what it is, but it's a lonesome place and always was. I wish I had come over to see Minnie Foster sometimes. I can see now.
Well, you mustn't reproach yourself, Mrs. Hale. Somehow we just don't see how it is with other folks until something comes up.
Not having children makes less work, but it makes a quiet house. And Wright out to work all day, and the company when he did come in. Did you know John Wright, Mrs. Peters?
Not to know him, I've seen him in town. They say he was a good man.
Yes, good. He didn't drink, and kept his word as well as must, I guess, and paid his debts. But he was a hard man, Mrs. Peters. Just to pass the time of day with him, like a whirlwind that gets to the bone. I should think she would have wanted a bird. What do you suppose went with it?
I don't know, unless it got sick and died.
She reaches over and swings the broken door, swings it again. Both women watch it.
You weren't raised around here, were you? You didn't know her.
Not till they brought her yesterday.
Come to think of it, she was kind of like a bird herself, real sweet and pretty, but kind of timid and watery. How she did change. Tell you what, Mrs. Peters, why don't you take the kitten with you? It might take up her mind.
Why, I think that's a real nice idea, Mrs. Hale. There couldn't possibly be any objection to it, could there? No, just what would I take? I wonder if her pages are in here and her things.
They look in the sewing basket.
Here's some red. I expect this has got swing things in it. Her pretty box. Looks like something somebody would give you. Maybe her scissors aren't here. Why, there's something wrapped up in this piece of silk.
What? This isn't her scissors.
Oh, Mrs. Peters, it's
It's a bird.
but Mrs. Peters. Look at it. Its neck. Look at its neck. It's all other side too.
Somebody wrung its neck. The rice meat, a look of growing comprehensions of horror. Steps are heard outside. Mrs. Hale slips sparks under gold pieces and sinks into her chair. Under sheriff and county attorney, Mrs. Peter rises.
Well, ladies, have you decided whether she was going to quill it or not it?
Oh, we think she was going to knot it.
Well, that's interesting, I'm sure. Has the bird flown?
Oh, we think the cat got it.
Is there a cat?
Oh, well,
Yes.
not now. They're superstitious, you know. They live.
No sign at all of anyone having come from the outside. They're on row. No, let's go up again and go over it piece by piece. It would have to have been someone who knew just the...
She liked the bird. She was going to bury it in that pretty box.
When I was a girl, my kitten, there was a boy. He took a hatchet and before my eyes, before I could get there, if they hadn't helped me back, I would have hurt him.
I wonder how it would seem never to have had any children around. No, White wouldn't like the bird, a thing that sank. She used to sing and he killed that too.
We don't know who killed the bird.
I knew John Wright.
It was an awful thing was done in this house that night, Mrs. Hale. Killing a man while he slept, slipping a rope around his neck, and choke him to death.
His neck choked the life out of him.
We don't know who killed him, okay? We don't know.
If there had been years and years of nothing, then a bird to sing to you, it would be awful. Still, after the bird was still.
I know what stillness is. When we homesteaded in Dakota, and my first baby died after he was only 2 years old, and me, with no other than...
How soon do you suppose they'll be through, looking for the evidence?
I know what stillness is. The law has got to punish crime, Mrs. Hale.
I wish you'd seen Mitty Foster when she wore a white dress with blue ribbons and stood up there in the choir and sang. Oh, I wish I'd come over here once in a while. That was a crime. That was a crime. Who's going to punish that?
We mustn't take on.
I might have known she needed help. I know how things can be for women. I tell you, it's queer, Mrs. Pierce. We live close together and we live far apart. We all go through the same things. It's all just a different kind of same things. If I was you, I wouldn't tell her her foot was gone. Tell her it ain't. Tell her it's all right. Take this in to prove it to her, and she may never know whether it was bird or not.
My, it's a good thing the man couldn't hear us. Wouldn't they just laugh? Getting all stirred up over a little thing like a dead canary, as if that had anything to do with... Well, wouldn't they just laugh?
Maybe they won't.
No, Peters, it's all perfectly clear. It's a good reason for doing it. But, Judith, when it comes to women, there was some definite thing, something to show, something to make a story about. I think that would connect up with this strange way of doing it.
Well, I've got the team around. Pretty cold out there.
I'm going to stay here a while by myself. You can send Frank out for me, can't you? I want to go over everything. I'm not satisfied that we can't do better.
Do you want to see what Mrs. Peter is going to take in?
The lawyer goes to the table, picks up the apron, laughs.
Oh, I guess they're not very dangerous things the ladies have picked out.
Moves a few things about, disturbing the quilt pieces which cover the box. Step back.
No, Mrs. Peters doesn't need supervising. For that matter, a sheriff's wife is married to the law. Everything of it that way, Mrs. Peters.
Not just that way.
Married to the law. I just want you to come in here a minute, George. We ought to take a look at these windows.
Oh, windows.
We'll be right out, Mr. Hale.
Hale goes outside. The sheriff follows the county attorney into the other room. Then Mrs. Hale rises, hands tied together, looking intensely at Mrs. Peters, whose eyes take a slow turn, finally meeting Mrs. Hale's. For a moment, Mrs. Hale holds her eyes, then her own eyes point the way to where the box is concealed. Suddenly, Mrs. Peters throws back quilt pieces and tries to put the box in the bag she is wearing. It is too big. She opens the box, starts to take the bird out, cannot touch it, goes to pieces, stands there helpless. Sound of a knob turning into the other room. Mrs. Hale snatches the box and puts it in the pocket of her big coat. Enter county attorney and sheriff.
Well, Henry, at least we found out that she was not going to kill it. She was going to, what is it call it, ladies?
We call it noted, Mr. Henderson.
All right, thank you for your attention towards our drama. So I would like to introduce myself. My name is Augi Nadya Zahrah Armadiva and my student number is 163. I play as county attorney.
Hello everyone, my name is Kautsarin Arsytania. My student number is 171 and I played as Sheriff and Mrs. Peters too.
Hello everyone, my name is Helga Kristella Nainggolan and my student number is 160 and I played as Mr. Hale.
Hi everyone, my name is Fitria Puji Utami. My student number is 164. I played as Mrs. Hale 1. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Abigail Hasti Tampubolon and my student number is 166. I played as Mrs. Peters 1.
Hi everyone, my name is Mifta Aulia and I played as Mrs. Hale too. My student's number is 169. And the whole member as a narrator. Thank you.